Another off-season edition of Patriot Central Radio. Matt LePan here with Evan Lazar and Brian Phillips. And tonight, very special guest to start off the show from Patriots.com, Patriots Football Weekly, and PFW in Progress, if it's still called that. Andy Hart joins us tonight. Andy, how we doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Good evening to everyone.
So, Andy, you guys figure out a name for PFW yet?
No, we got a lot of great ideas, but knowing PFW the way I do over the years, we'll probably end up not changing a thing.
Well, what has changed is obviously this Patriots roster. We're into OTAs and had a chance to talk to some of the guys recently. I know you were out there on that miserable day talking with the coaches. Can you tell me about some of the interesting things there? I know that Ivan Fears was one of the coaches who really had a lot of interesting things to say.
Well, yeah, it's always fun when we get these assistants because it's only a couple times a year. I mean, we get the coordinators weekly during the season, but Ivan has always been one of the more honest, colorful coaches. He tells it like it is. I remember it was last year or the year before, and sort of talking about his longevity, and he just said, I came here at the right time and I got on the right horse, horse number 12, and I've been riding it ever since. And he can be very colorful language, and he's got a really interesting group of guys to work with this year. He's first and foremost, I think we need to give Ivan credit for the closest room on the team almost every year, regardless of who's in that group and, how the carries are divvied up or the catches. Ivan always has a group of 3, 4, 5 guys that seem to genuinely love playing with each other and seem to genuinely enjoy when the others have success. And, he was just talking about the new guys here, and he has a new room of guys that, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes down. James White was talking about it today. It's competition. You never know in New England when your number is going to be called. You'll be ready when it is called. And, Ivan's in a unique situation because he has all these guys, but he doesn't decide when their number is called. That's Josh McDaniels, that's Bill Belichick. But I think it's going to be fun to watch what Ivan's group can do this year because there's a lot of talent and, there's a lot of potential. I think a lot more versatility in that room. When you talk about Gillislee is sort of a guy that, can really hit the hole and make some plays. And, you go to Burkhead, who, everybody says can be a 4-down player. He's been a backup in Cincinnati. There's reports now that, people wanted him to have a bigger role and different things coming out of Cincinnati. I'm intrigued to see, what they have in mind for Burkhead. And then obviously Dion Lewis, James White, the holdover guys. It's a really interesting backfield, and I think Ivan's going to have some fun with this young new group.
Andy, staying with the running backs, James White spoke to the media, I believe earlier today.
Yep.
That, it's a new season, competition brings out the best in you, blah, blah, blah. Two-part question here. One, what do you see his role as? And two, do you believe him that he was surprised and that the team was the one that initiated the contract talks? It seems very un-Belichickian to go to a guy like White and extend him early.
Well, it's those are the types of players that they occasionally do go to. Guys that are, not the budding stars necessarily, but guys they feel like have developed nicely in the Patriots system, and guys that they feel like if they go, we all know that running backs anyway aren't that valued. So I think it's a situation where the team liked the player likes the team. There was some loyalty, I think, in both directions. And yeah, I do buy that the Patriots went to him. And they've done this over the years, and sometimes the player says no and wants to, get to free agency and see what they can get on the open market. But I think James White's a guy that, he's been in these systems before at Wisconsin where there's different guys coming through. You're sharing the load with different guys. You have a different role. He's used to competition. He's used to sort of fighting for what he gets. And I think he really, truly enjoys life in New England. And let's be honest, 3 years, $15 million for a complimentary back or a passing Patriots. In terms of his role, I think it's what he's been the last year and a half, basically. As soon as Dion Lewis went down, he was every bit as productive as Dion Lewis 2 years ago, just not as flashy, just not, the electric plays and, making people miss in space and getting on SportsCenter. He's not quite the runner that Dion Lewis was at the beginning of the 2015 season. I think you could see that role expand a little bit. Certainly ran the ball pretty well in the Super Bowl and was able to find the goal line and get in. But I think his role is a pass catcher. I think, the 60 receptions he had last year, that's probably what you're looking for on an annual basis, especially if Dion Lewis doesn't get back to his level. And, I've talked about this. I don't think Dion Lewis is a lock to be on this football team. I think, depending on how he looks a year removed from the ACL, he could be a guy that could be trade bait or who knows how it all shakes out. But, I think James White has solidified his role as the main passing back in this offense. And we know going back more than a decade, that's a key role in this offense.
Andy, you just mentioned that you think Dion Lewis could be trade bait. I agree with you there. What do you think that the compensation the Patriots would be looking at to maybe move on from Lewis and maybe sell high on him a little bit?
We've talked about this a little bit on PFW in Progress, and, talking to people with the Patriots, it's one of those things. Generally, the trades that we'd be talking about are, two teams that, they have extra here and not enough depth there. For the Patriots, you have an extra running back, Dion Lewis. Well, what do you not have enough of? One thing that I think I wouldn't rule out would be a veteran offensive lineman. The Patriots have done that over the years, traded or made moves for veteran offensive linemen late in the process. I still think they would like to have a veteran on the interior line, probably a guard. I think they'd like to have a veteran guard with some starting experience, a guy that's proven himself in the National Football League. And that's not to say they don't like Joe Thuney and Shaq Mason. I think they really like Shaq Mason. I think the book, the jury's still out a little bit on Joe Thuney, what he's going to be in his second season, where he can evolve to. If he stays at what he was as a rookie, that's probably not good enough. That's probably not a mainstay. But if he can have a big year or two jump, well, okay, then maybe you don't need that veteran backup. But I would target that as one position where I think they could certainly add depth, would be a veteran offensive lineman. And if they could find a team that has an extra guard and, depending on how things play out with Lewis here, I think that's a deal with that would make some sense.
So as diehard Patriots fans here, Andy, we're dying with no football in the summertime. OTAs come around every year, and what can you really get out of them? I mean, I think nowadays, especially with the new CBA, that it's even more limited than it was before. So what do you guys look at as media when you're at some of these practices? What can you take away? The tropes come out about Gronk is, at full speed, and you got Butler and Stephon Gilmore on the field at the same time. But what are you looking at right now?
I think we need to remember these basically used to be called passing camps, and that's really the only area where you can see anything, is the passing game. You're not seeing any contact. You're not seeing anything really happen with the offensive, defensive lines, the fronts, anything like that. You can see receivers running. You can see quarterbacks throwing. You can see defensive backs even covering because, quite frankly, in today's modern NFL, you're not really allowed to touch the receivers anyway. So you need to be able to run with guys. You see some of that, but mainly what you see is just sort of roles where guys are being used. I would say they're seeds of what maybe could grow down the road in training camp and then into the season. I know a lot of people are talking about Jonathan Jones getting time in the slot, working with Gilmore and Butler on the pass defense as a guy that, as a second-year player. Last year he seemed primarily as a special teamer. Now can he see if he can find a role on defense? And what does that mean for him moving forward? What does that mean for other guys moving forward, like Cyrus Jones and some of those guys? So I think some of it is just, lineups, depth charts, where guys are taking roles. Is it the first group, the second group, whatever it may be? A couple of years ago, Dion Lewis, we were just talking about him. He certainly looked great in these passing camps, but you also have to say, oh, yeah, there's a 5'8" running back who looks fast and quick. He should look fast and quick in shorts in a passing camp. Can he transition that to training camp and the preseason into the regular season? Obviously, he could, and he did. You see a lot of other guys sometimes, young receivers or slot receivers, for example, that look quick, look like they can do everything. And then as the pads come on and, the pace of practice and the pace of the plays pick up with pads, they can't pick up and they can't grow with it. So it's really seeds. I would say the word, just seeds of things you want to keep an eye on down the road. And one of the biggest one of those, as I said, would be Jonathan Jones getting some high-level reps at cornerback.
Yeah, you're listening to Patriots Central Radio live on Facebook and YouTube with special guest Andy Hart. Andy, it's Brian from Pat's Pulpit. I've got to take issue with you. I've been wanting to ask you this for a long time. What is the deal with the cap is crap, man?
I think, as Bill Belichick likes to say, you can move cap space around any way you want. I don't think the cap keeps teams from doing virtually anything. And I think we saw it this year, especially the modern cap. Cap going up 10 million plus every year. You end up with just endless teams with literally more money than they can spend. So I'm a big believer that the cap is crap. I've had a number of front office types in the NFL tell me that, they are never, all teams have budgets and cash issues and things of that nature. But if you have even an ounce of intelligence, the cap never keeps you from doing anything you want to do. So, yeah, I believe the cap is crap.
Hey, fair enough. I personally feel that it separates, the scouting and the pro personnel departments. So you see, the Patriots dominating in that area. I got a quick question about the linebacker depth behind Dante Hightower. If way too early prediction, how do you see that shaking out?
Well, I think Kyle Van Noy is a guy that I think they view as a starting caliber linebacker in the NFL. He certainly has some versatility, can play outside and inside. But I think he's going to be a key factor in that mix. I'm interested to see what Landon Roberts looks like in his second season. In my mind, I already sort of have him in a certain role, and that's sort of a run-first linebacker who can play when he's moving forward, sort of a poor man's Brandon Spikes, not quite the thumper that Spikes was, but a guy that's going to make his money in the running game and make his money, sort of between the C gaps and moving forward. You ask him to do much more than that, I don't think he can. But again, the second season, we know Belichick talks about it all the time. This is the biggest jump players will make heading into their second season. So I think he's the guy to keep an eye on. Obviously, Harvey Lange, the undrafted linebacker, they paid him over $100,000 guaranteed money, and Belichick's affinity for him has been widely known for more than a year. How much he liked him as a player, so I think he's a guy with a really good shot to make the team. I do think there's a lack of depth there, a lack of certainty. I mean, this is a team where a couple of years ago, Jonathan Freeney was seeing a lot more playing time than I think he should have. He's a guy that I think Belichick fell a little bit too much in love with. Started a lot of games. He's coming back from IR from last year. I think he's probably in a battle for a roster spot. If he gets one, it's going to be a backup complimentary role. Shea McClellan certainly has the versatility to play inside when needed. We've seen the Rob Ninkovich experiment to play inside at times when needed. But the lack of depth at defensive end, I don't think you'll see too much Ninkovich playing, off the line linebacker with much regularity. So I think it's a position, especially, the way I see what they're doing, it looks to me like the end of last year, the Super Bowl, and maybe moving forward, you could see Hightower as more of a pass rusher. You could see him on the end of the line of scrimmage a little more often. That could open up some playing time for somebody in the middle of the field. But if I had to pick anybody right now, I'd say it's Kyle Van Noy. I think they believe he can be, one of their best 13, 14, 15 players on defense and have a key role.
And don't take it personally that Brian picked a fight with you about the cap is crap. He picked a fight with Walter Payton a few weeks ago. He's a known, aggressor on this show for some reason every time he comes on.
Believe me, I am totally fine with it. And it's one of those topics that is a pretty common debate because I think it's polarizing. There's people that think the cap is this massive deal and you really have to, manipulate it to be successful. And I think there's other people that think, yeah, there's a cap, just like everybody has a budget. And if you just have, as I said, just sort of an ounce of intelligence, I would say the cap is a lot like credit. Most people have decent credit. And then there's the idiot who gets his first credit card in college and maxes it out and gets another one and maxes it out. Yeah, there's an idiot out there, and that leads to a terrible life of credit. Right, but most
people, but you're talking about NFL franchises. These, right, it's an easy thing to not screw up. Yet half or more of the teams do and find themselves in trouble. It's a framework you have to work into.
Yeah, that's where I disagree. There's never, almost nobody is ever in cap jail anymore. It used to happen about 15 years ago. It's now a myth.
You're just crushing Brian's dreams right now. You're just,
more than half the league this year had $25 million in cap space. I mean, literally, they couldn't spend it. There weren't enough free agents. There weren't enough players available to spend the money on because so many teams had so much cap space because it's really so easy to work with.
No, that from that perspective, I absolutely agree. The teams can bank on the 8% annual increase, but I think when you're looking at down the road and you've got these draft classes of stars coming up that are going to be signed to extensions, eventually you can run into trouble. There are some teams that do run into trouble, and when I say into trouble, it's kind of in the sense of you're not being able to go out and sign whoever you want. But I see where you're coming from.
He's Andy Hart of Patriots.com. You can find him on Patriots.com, Patriots Football Weekly, PFW in Progress. Make sure to check that out. There's really only two podcasts you need for Patriots information. It's PFW in Progress, and it's us. So make sure to go check those guys out on Patriots.com. Andy, can you just do me one more quick favor before you go? Give the people a player to watch who they might not know the name right now that you're keeping an eye on here in OTAs.
That's a good one. You're putting me on the spot here. Well, I'll tell you, that's a tough one. I think this roster is so loaded with known commodities that it's going to be tough for anybody to be. I'll go with one. David Jones, the defensive back out of Richmond. You have a number of Joneses here competing for defensive back jobs. Everybody knows Cyrus, unfortunately, for a lot of bad reasons coming off of last year, and he was pretty horrific for the first day of OTA practice in terms of punt returning, picked up right where he left off, and that was misplaying balls and kicking balls out of frustration. And we talked about Jonathan Jones, but David Jones is a really interesting guy. Bigger guy, 220 pounds, ton of interceptions. I think he led the country with 8 a couple of years ago. Great frame. I was really surprised to see him back returning some punts in practice. And that tells you about a guy that I think is 6'1", 220. That tells you about his athleticism, that they're giving him a shot at, even in OTA practice, to return punts. So, this is a team that loves their undrafted rookies, that loves versatile defensive backs that can play in the kicking game. So I would keep an eye on David Jones. I think he's a guy that, certainly at least in preseason action as a ball-hawking safety, you could see flying all over the field, making some plays, and getting talked about late in the broadcast.
Again, it's Andy Hart, Patriots.com. You can follow him on Twitter at JumboHart. Andy, thanks so much for taking the time out tonight, and we'll talk to you down the road here, getting closer to the season.
My pleasure. I mean, if you're going to say, there's only 2 podcasts to listen to, this one and PFW in Progress, that kind of sucking up will get me back on the show anytime you want.
Well, we'll do a little more sucking up next time. How about that?
All right, thanks, guys. And more talk about the cap being cracked.
Woo! Thanks, Andy.
That's
Thanks,
Andy Hart. That is Andy Hart. And, guys, we're going to kind of piggyback on, or I'm going to piggyback on a discussion I started off with Andy earlier, talking about this running back group, and James White was front and center with the media and said the Patriots came to him and talked to him about re-upping. Where do you guys see his role being? I mean, Andy and I, we all went over it with Andy. This is a loaded running back group. How do you guys see it shaking out here?
Well, I mean, I think that he had almost an underrated year last year, believe it or not. He was a guy that maybe, not other fan bases didn't hear about before the Super Bowl, but it wasn't like James White just came out of nowhere in the Super Bowl, had this great game. Maybe in touchdowns he ended up doing that, but he was catching passes out of the backfield for the last 2 years, just like he did in the Super Bowl. I mean, the numbers he put up in this last year, second most receiving yards by a running back in Patriots history, more than Kevin Falk, more than Shane Vereen ever had in a season. I think that he's a pretty solid player, and Andy also mentioned some stuff about his background and him playing at Wisconsin, and then what he did in high school, playing with Giovanni Bernard in the same backfield as Gio. So, I think he's a guy that's pretty used to being in a committee also.
Yeah, as far as James White, I think going forward in 2017, you'll see more of the same role. Not really used too much in between the tackles. Almost to this point, a little underrated between the tackles. He's got some of that shake that you need. But going back to what Andy said, with being one of those guys who gets the extension, guys that aren't going to be a superstar. And it almost goes back into the cap is crap conversation. The Patriots have 30 players between $1 and $6 million cap hits. It's the most in the National Football League, and he's one of those guys. David Andrews. I mean, these kinds of homegrown extensions. These are what you build a core around. And James White's one of those guys. So.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Something to go along those lines also is the Patriots always seem to have a great middle class. There are 2s and 3s. They pay those guys a lot more than other teams might pay them, and it really builds the depth. And although this team, this year they have so many guys, at the top of the roster also, but I think more times than not, year in and year out, we hear about the Kyle Van Noys or the London Robertses or these guys that just come out of nowhere on both sides of the ball. And it's because they have, great depth and they put a lot of money into those depth guys.
Yeah, and Evan, it's an interesting point you said about their middle class. You look at their middle class this year, it consists of guys like Deron Harmon, Pat Chung's kind of in that area too, Dwayne Allen. You're looking at all these guys who were starters on most other teams. They're the middle class here, and they get a bit more of a bump. You were totally right there. But the middle class is just so much better on this team that that's why they're a team that consistently competes. It's a really interesting point you made there. I just had to kind of hop on and, talk about how loaded they are in case anybody's
I got to jump in on that too, because when I say that they lead the league in middle class guys, I mean, I did a piece a couple of weeks ago where I went through the entire NFL and went and sifted through all of the rookie contracts, anybody on a rookie deal, but I counted 5th-year options and I counted restricted free agent tenders. And I split them all into $3 million segments. And I got rid of anybody on a rookie deal or who was traded to a team on a rookie deal, so you could really see what teams are out there literally making financial decisions and investing in each category. And the Patriots, like you'd expect, number one in the $1 to $3 million range, number one in the $3 to $6 million range. You have 30 total on the roster for 2017. It's pretty wild when you look at it. And it's not that they're not paying anybody either. It's I don't know, for a cap guy, it's beautiful.
A capgasm. But the next topic here we want to talk about was Cyrus Jones, because I know me and Matt disagree on what the Patriots should do with Cyrus Jones. Matt doesn't want to baby the kid, and I'm not saying to baby him. I'm just saying that they have a need in the slot, cornerback spot that I think that he has a skill set to really step in and fill and be a third cornerback if they want to go that direction. And maybe it's best to take him off the punt returns for a while and let him just play cornerback and get that part of his game right, because obviously it's an absolute disaster.
Yeah, the only problem with that is he sucks at cornerback too.
Well, you don't know that. He barely played there.
There's a reason he hardly played there.
He gets burned on one touchdown, and he sucks.
Rocket burned the whole game. Yeah, it was only one touchdown, but he was open on every damn play. If he had a quarterback getting the ball, the thing is,
maybe because the punt return was in his head. I mean, the kid can't do the punt returns. He boots it. That was one of the worst plays in that Ravens game that any of us have ever seen the Patriots make in the Belichick era. I mean, that was disastrous.
When have you ever seen Bill Belichick coddle a guy like this, though? You can't catch the punt, so I'm gonna make it so that you don't do it in practice, you don't do it in games. He's doing it in practice and kicking the ball towards the media. Andy talked about it.
But when have you ever seen Bill Belichick give a guy this many chances? He's given Cyrus Jones so many chances to figure out the punt return thing because he's a really dynamic guy in the open field. We saw it at Alabama. He can do it. But he just he can't do it. It's in his head at this point. And why continue to waste your time with the guy when maybe if you just have him focus on playing defense, playing cornerback, and making the team that way, maybe you can get something out of a guy that was your second round pick and your first selection in a draft. I mean, just to give up on him altogether, because that's what you're going to do if you keep putting him back there, return kicks. It just seems ridiculous to continue to go down that road.
You brought him in specifically. Really, they brought him in specifically to give Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, guys like that a blow from returning punts.
What's the definition of insanity when you continue to do something that doesn't work over and over again?
If it doesn't work, and he can't return punts and he can't cover, what good is he doing here? Send him down Dominique Easley way.
Oh man,
that's cold. It's cold, man. You know what? I've been on the. We've got to take our time with Cyrus. That It's clearly a mental thing. It's the yips. It's like my putting stroke. There's something at impact that goes wrong mentally. And we've seen it with guys like John Lester can't throw pickoffs to first base. Rick Ankiel starts throwing the ball 10 feet over the catcher's head. It's a yip thing. Yes. Do you want to see what he can do as a slot corner? Sure, but as we've heard, I mean, we've got the hot name right now was Jonathan Jones behind him on the depth chart, looking to make plays. He wasn't just brought in to give a respite to the punt returners. He was brought in to make plays as a punt returner and to change the game from a punt returning, perspective.
He was a second round pick in the first selection that they made in a draft class. That right there tells you that they thought that this guy was going to contribute on all four downs. They did not think Cyrus Jones was just a returner. They thought he was going to be able to play corner. No,
for sure. But it wasn't just a bonus. He was brought in. I mean, the plays he made at Alabama, he was dynamic, absolutely explosive. But you're right. It's clear. Got to stop with the punt returns. You're all done. Yes, it's May. Yes, it's one media availability OTA. But yeah, we've seen enough. Thank you. And you better be damn good against Mr. Hawkins in the slot in reps. Okay, you're gonna have to.
Maybe they just brought him in just to put him against Cyrus every day.
Right, they're trolling. They're already trolling their second round pick from last year. Like, see, come on.
I mean, Matt, I get your take. Like, I get that it's not the Patriot way to coddle him. I'm not telling you to keep him on the team if he doesn't perform as a corner and just to coddle him, but you have a guy under contract. He was a second round pick, just a couple of years ago. I mean, give it a shot at least to see what you can get out of the guy at this point. I would think, and if you continue to put him back there, he's just going to continue to fumble, punts and kick returns, and it's going to be a disaster.
I mean, like I said, I think that you don't coddle him. You keep him. You keep plugging away at it. I mean, bringing up the baseball reference, Rick Ankiel, they kept hammering him pitching, and he sucked. And eventually they tried him, so maybe that's going down your route. But
I guess my point,
they sent him down. They sent him down before anything else. So if it's another year of Cyrus Jones not contributing in any way, shape, or form except for muffing punts, or if it's him getting, him not performing, you've already seen guys during OTAs ahead of him, like Jones. They said that Killings was getting some reps above him. DJ Killings, that's an undrafted rookie getting reps above a second, but it's an undrafted
trope
rookie
alert. Trope alert. I mean,
it's an undrafted rookie getting reps above Cyrus Jones, and if Cyrus Jones isn't going to contribute on defense and he's not going to contribute in the punt return game, what good is he on the roster?
No, I'm totally with you there. All I'm saying is unlike in baseball where a guy can't hit the glove, or in golf when your putt is off or whatever. Those are things that you can't eliminate from your game, right? You can't golf without being able to putt. Cyrus Jones can play football without returning kicks. So if you take that part of it out of the game, I just think that maybe you can take that mental aspect, because obviously that's the part that's in his head, and maybe he can focus on contributing to the team in other ways. I mean, who knows? He could be a gunner for all he knows. You know what I mean? He's an athletic guy. I just feel like at this point it's obviously it's affecting the guy's career, and you're going to ruin him if you continue to go down this road.
They've already got 23 gunners ahead of them. Sorry, Matt Slater and Nate Ebner.
So that middle class is full of gunners.
The problem I think you're looking at is this roster, this 53-man roster, is going to be really tough to make. There's going to be cuts at other positions that they don't want to have to make. And if you have to make a decision between DJ Killings and Cyrus Jones, assuming Jonathan Jones takes that gunner fourth cornerback role, are you better off just cutting both players and keeping DJ Foster, who has had a nice, who in one OTA has looked pretty solid, and they've invested resources in him last year. Do you keep a guy at a different position? When you're staring, just throwing good money at bad money is clearly not in Bill's repertoire. So,
what is interesting about the cornerback spot is that safety they're so deep, and Patrick Chung is essentially a nickel corner and most of the time when he plays inside. And it's not a position that they necessarily need to have more than 3 or 4 guys that can play cornerback, because they're going to most of the time have that big nickel package in there with Patrick Chung as a safety, or a big dime package with 3 safeties on the field anyway. So you're really looking at Gilmore, Butler, and really Eric Rowe probably that are going to get any serious snaps there at cornerback anyways.
Right, and Butler will drop inside, Rowe on the outside with Harmon over the top and Chung in the box. Yeah, I've got to know what you guys think about my question to Andy Hart, though, with the backup behind Dante Hightower. What you think?
Go ahead, Matt.
I mean, I think Andy hit it on the head. It's definitely Kyle Van Noy's position to lose. I think that Landon Roberts has his role on first and second down, but we saw him in the Super Bowl. He can't cover. He got completely lost, and Devontae Freeman burned him. I'm not the biggest Van Noy fan, but I think that he is a better option than Jonathan Freeney, and I think he's a much better option than Shea McClellan. I don't think McClellan's an inside linebacker. He's just time and time again, he's failed at the position. So I just don't see him there. I mean, the name that really it's there to lose, it's Van Noy's job to lose, and then there are 2 guys that are interesting that you can look at that Bill Belichick has shown a lot of love for both of them. It's your guy, your favorite, Brian, Harvey Longy. The other guy is Trevor Bates. Technically, first-year player
Bates is a good and interesting
name. Bates is a guy they liked. It's a guy that they probably thought they could have stashed for a year, and they couldn't, but they have him here now. They have him in camp, and I think that, he's a 6'2", 250-ish pound linebacker.
Do you think he can play inside? I mean, he's a big guy to be, standing up and playing inside.
I mean, you have the model for what his game can be playing in front of him. If he attaches himself to Dante Hightower's hip, gets with him in the weight room, gets with him in conditioning, and kind of learns that role, I think he moves pretty well. The kid's got some good movement. Can he cover is the real question, but you're looking at all these guys, they have deficiencies in coverage. You look at, Longy has that problem. McClellan has that problem. Roberts has that problem. Van Noy's the best of the group in coverage. That's why I think it's really his job. But don't sleep on a guy, those 2 names, they're kind of underappreciated Bill Belichick type of players. Those are 2 names to watch as we go through, the OTA process in the beginning of camp.
Yeah, it's hard not to give the nod to Kyle Van Noy before we see anything, in the preseason. I would agree that he's got the inside track for sure. I'm still not giving up on Landon Roberts. I think that if they scheme it, I think that they can make it a way so that he doesn't have to cover too far downfield. Now, if he gets isolated against a running back or something like that out wide, where they're in trouble. But I think that they have the ability, with Matt Patricia back there and the cornerbacks and the safeties that they have to really take care of the coverage responsibilities with defensive backs, and maybe they use Roberts and Hightower inside as thumpers. But I think Kyle Van Noy is the guy that you'll see play in space most often. And, it was an area of need going into the draft. They didn't really address it, with their picks, obviously. But maybe Harvey Lange is the guy that they think. I have tried to dig up as much Harvey Lange tape as I can to watch that guy. Matt, maybe you've watched more than me. I mean, you can see the raw athleticism, but other than that, it kind of looks like he has no idea where to go necessarily on some plays.
And didn't you know he's a first-round pick, though? If they came out last year, Bill Belichick was taking him in the first round.
There's nothing that I'm more frustrated. I know Brian is going to jump in here with the guaranteed money as soon as I say it, but there is just this absolute ridiculous thing in the Boston media going on right now that like Harvey Lange is on the team automatically because they guaranteed him all that money and he's they think he's the first round pick or last year or whatever. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, you guys know my take. No UDFAs this year, making the 53. I'm sticking to that.
He just loves to throw fire on this show when he comes on.
Well, the whole conversation, is a trick question because I have the answer for you guys. And, I wrote an article about it, came out this morning, plug SB Nation, Pat's Pulpit. There's a guy out there right now who PFF graded 15th overall last year. He played 11 games. He was 10th against the run, 30th against the pass. You can keep him on the field all four downs, even if you want to play him on special teams. And he played for Oakland last year, Perry Riley Jr. The guy is finally healthy. He showed he was healthy. With tomorrow being June 1st, it's not going to affect comp pick formulas for Oakland or the Pats. Bringing a veteran guy, they've shown with their, bringing in guys like Hodges and Andrew Gakkar, they're bringing in guys, they want a veteran linebacker presence. I still think if you bring in a guy like Perry Riley, who, if you watch him at all, he was phenomenal last year. The guy was all over the place. You keep him and Landon Roberts. You can have a Kyle Van Noy on third down with Perry Riley. You can move Hightower down to that Sam spot, and like Andy Hart was saying, blitz him off the edge. Utilize that skill set of his. And people sleep on Dante Hightower's pass coverage ability. The guy was graded 19th. Yeah, I know I'm a PFF pusher right now, but like 19th in coverage. It's nothing to shake a stick at. But Perry Riley, come on, LSU product.
I like that prediction.
I think the name we're all forgetting because he was on IR last year, but the Patriots showed that they love him. It's Jonathan Freeney.
Don't come down Jonathan Freeney lane right now.
No, but I don't like him. I don't think he's that good. But
they picked up his roster bonus. They 220.
They dislike him.
He plays down.
He had that thing with Gerard Mayo's last year, right? And they mentored him a little bit, and it seemed like they were trying to coach him up. And Brian behind the glass wants to point out Gerald Hodges, which I think is another name that I thought the Patriots might jump on him as when I saw that. I think PFF, again, we're touting PFF all over the place, had him rated pretty highly, and they said he was their best available player on the market, and the Bills just snatched him up. I thought that would have been a decent pickup also. But all right, Perry Riley Jr., I like that as well. And
you guys
Brian
are on board.
Phillips giving us a name. I like that a lot.
Nice.
Putting his name to another name. All right. Anyways, so next thing here that we wanted to talk about, I put out on Twitter the depth charts of the 2017 Patriots offense versus the 2007 Patriots offense. Asked you guys who you thought you would take. Matt LePan and I think we disagree again on this one.
We do.
Matt, and we're skipping and Stephen A tonight, I guess. Just going to yell at each other a lot. But Brian Phillips, jump in here and tell me, who are you taking? You taking Moss or are you taking this year's offense? Yeah, that's
man.
right.
Open it up, baby.
Okay.
Open it up.
That was one of my favorite celebrations. I think I might take that over the Gronk spike, and that's saying a lot.
I feel like you can't. I feel like you can't go wrong with either one, but you can. You will go wrong. You'll anger the other side, and we haven't seen this year's offense, but man, there was no Rob Gronkowski on that offense. It was Randy Moss making everybody else better in 2007. I mean, obviously it's Randy Moss. The guy was
just the guy who set the NFL record for
right. Right.
But we didn't know that he was
understandable.
going to do that at this point in the season
Right.
in 2007. I mean, he just came. Not that we knew that Randy Moss was obviously capable of being Randy Moss, but we never expected anything close to that.
But man, I mean, when you're looking at all of the weapons, the totality of the offense, obviously the offensive line, it's so tough with the recency bias. The offensive line in 2007 compared to this, 2017 offensive line isn't even close. It's 2007. But Man. Oh.
Get off the fence. Give us a take.
Yeah.
2007. 2007.
Yeah.
Anymore.
No.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to make the case for 2017, and then Matt can tell me that I'm wrong. And the main reason why, and it's no disrespect to the 2007 offense, which was still the most fun football team to watch ever, I think. Not biased opinion at all there. But the reason why I'm taking 2017 is because of depth. They have a stable of running backs. They have a stable of wide receivers. They have two tight ends that are both better than any tight end that was on the 2017. I mean, Ben Watson was, Ben Watson. It was a decent player, but obviously never lived up to the hype, really, of his draft selection. And I think that Dwayne Allen and Gronk are probably both better than, Ben Watson and Kyle Brady. Not that those two guys were really the workhorses of the offense. Really, the main thing for me, though, is that if you look at proven commodities at this point in the season, where, in almost in June here, and mini camps are right around the corner, but when you look at who is on the Patriots roster this year versus who is on the Patriots roster back then, Wes Welker, we didn't know that Wes Welker was going to be Wes Welker, right? Randy Moss came off just a 550-yard, 3-touchdown season, obviously in Oakland with Aaron Brooks, and I can't remember the other quarterback's name that was also terrible. Obviously, it improved greatly when he came back to a good offense, but mainly, it was those two guys and some Kevin Falk stuff underneath, and that really got it done. And it wasn't as versatile of an offense. It wasn't like they could play a two tight end set with a fullback in the backfield just as easily as they could go 5 wide. And I think that's really, they're going to be harder to defend this year almost, because it's not just going to be Moss running by 3 guys and catching a Hail Mary pass from Brady. They're going to be able to really, efficiently move the ball down the field in many different ways.
You're talking about known commodities, so a lot of the stuff with the Patriots this upcoming year is projections. You're projecting that Rob Gronkowski is going to stay healthy for a full season.
But
You're
even if he doesn't,
projecting that Dwayne Allen is going to stay healthy for a full season.
Oh, damn.
Two tight ends with major injury history. Rex Burkhead has never been a starting running back. Mike Gillislee has never been a starting running back. I love this Patriots team. I think they're very close. It wasn't like an easy decision, but when you look at that 17, Brian brought it up. My favorite part of that team was the offensive line. They were maulers. They kept Brady clean all the time. The only time they didn't was in the Super Bowl. Go figure. But give me that offensive line pretty much all 5 across over anyone on this offensive line now.
That's a fair take. That's a fair take.
So you protected Brady better. You had more running lanes. They didn't use the run as much. But you look at what they were able to do.
They weren't going to hand the ball off to Lawrence Maroney when they could throw it to Randy Moss. That was why they didn't use the running game a lot. Now they have 3 or 4 different running backs that they could give the ball to.
They do.
I mean, Sammy Morris was the best running back on the 2017. He played 6
Sammy
games.
Morris is the LeGarrette Blunt of that 2017.
When I really
was looking
when I was looking into this, Sammy Morris, he was on pace to have a career year for the Patriots that year. He was averaging 64 yards per game in his 6 games that he played. If he's still on the team, I mean, that team is even better than it was. Like, Lawrence Maroney was just nothing that year compared to Sammy Morris. Brian behind the glass giving the David Tyree gif in the group chat right now. I had to stop in the middle of my thought because of that. That was
I think
cruel.
no matter what offense you put in that 2007 Super Bowl. Can you imagine the 2017 offensive line against Justin Tuck and Michael Strahan? It would be. Look at what they did against Grady Jarrett and Whitney Merciless.
That's fair.
It would be a nightmare, and that's why. I don't know. Randy Moss.
I understand that, but I think that the difference between this Patriots team and the 2007 Patriots team is that the 2007 Patriots team was beating their head against the wall with the game plan of Moss deep, Welker in the slot, and then some underneath stuff with Kevin Falk, right? This team, when they have guys like Strahan, the guys got like Tuck coming after them, they can beat you in different ways. They can try to run the football a little bit. They could, go with a more a more quick inside passing game that will get the ball out of Brady's hands more quickly. They could have other options besides just, Brady patting the ball, waiting for Moss to get open downfield. That was really what the downfield, the downfall of that team was in that Super Bowl, was that they needed to give Brady 3 or 4 seconds to hold the ball, and it just wasn't happening against those pass rushers. This team, he's going to get the ball out in 2 seconds, and he's going to carve them up.
The difference was Steve Spagnuolo channeling his inner Bill Belichick and scheming up one of the better defensive plans you'll ever see against the Patriots team. That, they relied on going deep, but you look at that team, and in the end, they scored to get the lead. Did the offense let them down? Yes, but in the end, the defense didn't get the stop.
Yeah, it's just Brandon Cooks is not Randy Moss, but he's a deep threat.
To Evan's point, you've still got a running. I've got to play both sides here because this is what I do on this show. Flip flop.
The proverbial fence sitter.
And Evan's buried the lead here, and the whole point of going with the 2017 team and that offense is you're looking at a better Tom Brady now than you were looking at with 2007 Tom Brady.
He threw 50 touchdowns in 2007.
Randy Moss caught 23 of them. Your point, I'm making your point for you. To your point,
I don't know if I want that as part of my point.
2017 Tom Brady is much more experienced, much more elusive in the pocket. He's got that TB12, soft muscle flesh thing going on.
Liability.
He was last year. He was unbelievable. You put old experienced Tom, who looks, no more old than 2007 Tom. You put him on that offense, maybe he avoids another sack or two, but I think you bury the lead there, Evan.
Yeah, no, I think that the point is Brandon Cooks is no Randy Moss. None of us are going to pretend and say that he is, but he's a good enough deep threat. He's a professional fast guy, is what I like to call him, and he's going to get deep. But then they also have options with, Julian Edelman. They have options with, now they have Chris Hogan. They have Gronk, obviously. They have a lot more ways that you can beat a defense, and it's going to be a lot more versatile of an offense, I think. And that is one thing that I think that Bill Belichick had noticed from that 2007 team, and as he tried to develop the next offense after Randy Moss, slowed down and he kept, with the 2 tight end sets and stuff like that. Once he developed that new offense, he realized that we need to be able to beat teams in more than one way. It can't just be, Moss, running by 3 guys and catching 23 touchdowns in the season. That was a unbelievable year and a once in a lifetime type of thing that we're going to see. Instead it's going to have to be, a little bit of Gronk, a little bit of Edelman, now a little bit of Cooks, a little bit of everybody else. And all these guys kind of do things a little bit differently and add a little bit different elements to the Patriots offense that maybe that 07 team didn't have quite that as many counter moves as this one does.
You're acting like that Patriots team had literally nobody to catch the ball outside of Randy Moss, though.
No, yes, I'm giving Welker his credit, but Welker, we didn't know that Welker was gonna, go off and have 5 or 6 seasons in a row of 100 catches and 1,000 yards. We didn't know that was going to be Wes Welker at the time.
Right, but oh man, I loved Wes Welker and Randy Moss. Were the show, but you look at 46 receptions from Dante Stallworth, you look at another 36 from Jabbar Gaffney.
But you're telling me that they're not going to get that from Hogan or Malcolm Mitchell? They're definitely going to get that, or Dwayne Allen, or one of the running backs. Danny Amendola. No, I get it. We're splitting hairs here. These teams are both going to be great, and I do understand that we're predicting with the 2017 team, so it's not quite apples to apples. We can ask in February. We'll debate this again.
The real moral of the story: Phillips, 2007 Brady would be an undrafted free agent.
Hey, Heath Evans or James Devlin, right? Is that what we're talking about here? Is this going to be the
Well, Heath Evans, because when Sammy Morris got hurt, Heath Evans was really their 4th running back on the roster. It was Maroney, it was Falk, it was Heath Evans. Now you have so many different guys that can do so many different things in that running back stable. The offensive line is really, if that offensive line from 07 was the same as it was, in 2017, we would be talking about 19-0 again, because that offensive line was, a difference maker and a weapon, especially Mankins at that point in his career. Matt Light even was still a Pro Bowler. But that's really, when you really break it down. Nick Hazard. When you really break it down, let's do this for a second. 2017 Brady versus 2007 Brady. Brian Phillips has already said he's taking 2017. Matt, you're taking 2007, right?
Yeah, I'm taking 07 Brady.
All right, I'll take 07
in a nutshell
Brady.
for 1 year, right? In a vacuum, all things being equal, right? Not with his age and not with Giselle yapping about concussions.
No. That's all
Giselle's,
part of it.
Giselle's yapping about concussions.
All right, I'll still take 2017 Brady. I'm sticking to this one. Dude, he was so good last year.
No, it's I get it, but running back, you're obviously taking the 2017 running backs, Matt. I mean, come on. Okay,
that's a
wide receiver. You're probably taking 2007 because of Moss.
Open it.
I want to take it because of Moss, but I mean, I think this team. I think they're deeper now. I really do.
Yeah, they're deeper, but are they as talented up top?
Yeah, you're right. All right, the tight end. We're taking 2017 there, not even close. So
your tiebreaker is the offensive line.
But the point is that it's so even.
Your tiebreaker is the offensive line, and who's the better offensive line?
I think the tiebreaker goes to Randy Moss.
2007.
Right. This is the thing. The tiebreaker to me, and I know you guys are going to say Randy Moss again, but really the tiebreaker to me is if a defensive coordinator wakes up in the morning and he's got to go and game plan against the Patriots offense. Which Patriots offense does he have to game plan for more? Which one is a harder, to predict? Which one is harder to really stop? The
answer, Evan, is Randy Moss.
But just because, but really from a schematical standpoint, right? You can double or triple team Moss. Now he might run by all three guys like he did, 23 times, right? But
look at what he did to prime Darrelle Revis.
This is tough because then I end up taking the other side, and it's like
I'm twisted you into submission. You're taking 07. You did your own tiebreaker.
I tell you what.
You did your own tiebreaker and ruined your own
2017.
Do yourself a favor and just watch the Randy Moss against Air Force game when he was at Marshall, and then you'll be convinced. That's all you need. All you need is college Randy Moss.
All I'm saying is that if I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm game planning for both of these Patriots offenses, I think it's harder from a schematic standpoint to be able to stop everything that this 2017 team could throw at you. You might not have the horses to hang with Randy Moss, right? You might not have the corners that can run with him, and that could be your downfall, which was the case for 18 teams in 2007. But the point is that from a football X's and O's standpoint, this team can do a whole lot more formationally, a whole lot more with different guys on the field than that team could. And I think that it would be more difficult to prepare for this team, I would think, than it would be for that 2017. I mean, you might not be able to stop them, but...
Real quick before you take it out, James White or Kevin Falk?
Kevin Falk. 10 times out of 10.
James White, oh man. If James White could blitz pick up like he did in the Super Bowl, it's closer, but I'm still taking Kevin Falk. Yeah,
Kevin Falk's the man. And Matt, you're completely biased because of the Hall of Fame, the Patriots Hall of Fame thing. So I mean, in the draft, with the Tom Brady jersey.
I'm completely biased because that was the best Patriots team we've ever seen.
Well, yeah. Hey, we're on the same side on this one, pal.
Yep, we are, and we twisted Evan into submission.
No, I think I won that debate.
How you did a tiebreaker and you went 07.
No, I went 2-2. I just was proving.
And then you skipped over the offensive line, which
I didn't skip over the offensive line.
Walter Payton wouldn't get drafted.
Answer right now.
In the 2017.
This will take us out. Offensive line.
We've gone
off the rails. 07. We already debated that.
Thank you. So that's
the tiebreaker.
07, 2 for 17.
Man, we're gonna argue about Cyrus Jones and this for all offseason. I think.
Yes, we are.
Walter Payton wouldn't get drafted.
I think that's all we have
in the 2017
tonight. Brian Phillips, tell us what you got coming up. We really need to get Brian's follower count up on Twitter. It's He's too good to not have more followers. I'm putting out a flyer right now for him to get some more followers on there. But what do you got going on?
Business is a booming in the follower count, by the way, guys. We're almost up to 400 here. But no, this week we got a entirely way too early preview of Jaguars-Patriots joint practices, teaming up with Zach Goodall from Big Cat Country, SB Nation, and then way too early. But it's June, and I need this, so that's what we're doing. And just had a piece come out again this week on Perry Riley Jr. and then SB Nation is doing a thing where we all write kind of why we became fans of our team. And anybody who's on staff writes about how why they became a fan of their team, and things got a little emotional there. It's my pinned tweet on my on my Twitter handle at bphillips_NFL. So check it out.
Matt LePan.
We're about to get into next year's draft, 2018 draft.
And I'm too early.
Top 50 and top 5 at each position will be dropping this week.
Yes.
For Patriots stuff, I'm looking at doing some stuff, bringing down some film of the interior line and how this unit is now intact and what they can do going forward to improve off of what they did last year.
I like that. The way too early Matt LePan 2018 draft rankings, but it's never too early. And this time of year, we're all just like dying for something to talk about football wise, but we're almost there. We're almost there at minicamp. I'm going to have something out with minicamp. We're going to do some trope alerts, see what are the biggest hot takes coming out of OTAs going into minicamp. Jonathan Jones going to be the third cornerback. Harvey Lange, obviously, haven't seen him quite yet, but maybe he'll be on there too. My guy Austin Carr still coming in as well. Excited to see him, but we're almost there, folks. We're a week away from minicamp, a month and a half away from training camp at the end of July there. So we're almost there, but that's all the time we have for tonight. For Brian Behind the Glass, Brian Phillips, Matt LePan, I'm Evan Lazar. Thanks to Andy Hart one more time, and thanks for listening. This is Patriots Central Radio.